a broadcast service of City College and the San Diego Community College District. This is Jazz FM 88.3 KSDS San Diego. I'm Dave Drexler with Inside Art. Support for Inside Art comes from the members of San Diego's Jazz 88.3. This week on Inside Art, we'll preview the 8th edition of the Old Globe Theater's Powers New Voices Festival, January 21st through 24th. But first, San Diego's venerable Mainly Mozart Festival has been charting an innovative course over the past year with its presentation of live concerts outdoors at the Del Mar Fairgrounds parking lot. Their success has led to a new season of performances beginning February 10th through 14th with a two-part Festival of Orchestras, featuring members of the LA Philharmonic and San Francisco Symphony, followed by musicians from the National Symphony and Metropolitan Opera Orchestra April 15th through 18th. Mainly Mozart's traditional series of concerts continue throughout June with the Mainly Mozart All-Star Festival Orchestra. These events, along with free community concerts and educational programs, make for what's being called a tenacious effort to bring classical music back to the U.S. Joining me with all of the details is the Chief Executive Officer of Mainly Mozart, Nancy Laturno. Nancy, it's great to speak with you again on Inside Art.
Great to be with you, Dave. Thanks.
Congratulations for all your organization has accomplished in the face of tremendous odds. How did you go about bucking the odds and putting music on as you have?
Well, I think tenacious was just the right word. We were all thrown when we went into quarantine, and we had no idea in March when we canceled Mainly Mozart, when we canceled our March and April events, that we would also be canceling the June festival. But we decided at the time to never refer to it as a cancellation, but always as a postponement. And we remained committed to doing live music, which is what we are in the business of doing and what the public needs. And we had hoped to bring it back in fall, and that's what we ended up doing. But it was really hell or high water. There was not 1 inch that was easy, and that continues to be true.
So who came up with the brilliant idea of doing this outdoors at the Del Mar Fairgrounds?
Well, it was a combination of people, really, but it was Jerry Cole, who is the founder of Brighton, is a patron supporter of Mainly Mozart's and of other arts organizations, mostly in the LA area. And he and I are friends, and he said to me, "You need to do a drive-in concert." And that was the end of June. And I said, yeah, we could probably do that in August. And he goes, "No, you need to do it now." And we just leapt. And we had no idea on July 11th when we did our first concert in the dirt parking lot of the Del Mar Fairgrounds, which was the idea of our director of operations, Katie McBride, because we're going down a completely different path. She's the one who identified and negotiated with the Del Mar Fairgrounds, which has ended up being a perfect home for us. We've been in a couple of different locations at the fairground site. But it was Jerry Cole who suggested we do the drive-in format. And when we did it on July 11th, we became, without realizing it at the time, the first arts organization in the U.S. to produce live classical music for a live audience. And it was very emotional, just as emotional for the musicians as it was for the audience.
Because that's what they really are in it for, ultimately, for their whole lives.
I mean, there were tears on stage, I will tell you, and there continued to be throughout the summer of performances, because we planned to go on stage once and saw how it resonated for everybody, and went on to do about 20 concerts already under our belts, with more coming up starting in February, as you mentioned. But every musician could tell you it has been 4 months and 7 days since I have performed a concert, since I have played for an audience, since I have played with colleagues. And, Jeff Thayer, concertmaster, San Diego Symphony, happened to perform on that first concert, as did Martin Chalifour, concertmaster, LA Phil, with members of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. And he was thanking Mainly Mozart for helping him find his artistic voice, his musical voice again that had been silenced. I don't think we really stop and think, aside from music being the livelihood, which is one thing because a lot of people have lost their livelihoods, it's the expression of who these great artists are. It's expressed through their art, and when that's silenced, it's much more. It's not only the audience that suffers.
So maybe you can describe what the audience experience is like in these outdoor concerts that you've been producing.
Well, when we first started in July, I was very nervous about how many cars we could accommodate because we wanted to make sure it was a good experience. So I think we let 60 cars and then 75, then 100. Now I think we're at like 350. So because we've changed spaces for one thing, but also we've figured out the way to do it. We perform the concerts without intermission. The audience members stay in their cars. We provide wonderful catered boxes for people who choose, but other people bring their own food and wine and whatever into their cars, so they have a whole drive-in experience. We keep the windows open in most cases. You can listen through an FM channel, but I really encourage audience members to just keep their windows open. Our sound system is extraordinary, and the artist and audience will both attest to that. So you can get a real the live experience and see your socially distanced neighbors in their cars. So even though you're not getting out of your car, there still is a huge sense of community. You listen to the concert in your car. Um, you can eat and drink, and everybody does. Um, you honk your applause, you flash your lights, and I'll tell you, the first time we did it, it was sort of horrifying because it's rude to honk your horn. Like Californians we don't honk our horns, you know? I mean, that's how you scold someone, certainly not the way you congratulate someone. And so, and I still have to tell musicians too, don't make a joke. Like it will just fall, because you're standing up there alone with no reaction. People might be chuckling or nodding in their cars, but all you can feel from stage is the honking and the flashing of lights. Some people have brought like cowbells, which is really good. I love that idea. Um, because you like to hear the audience connecting with the artist following the performance, but the audience response has changed completely from where we were on July 11th to where we were when we finished our mainly Mozart Festival with our All-Star Orchestra the end of October at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. People get it now. They are on their horns, they're on their lights. The artists feel the love. The audience is really into the experience, I think, in every way.
So let's talk about the upcoming season then you have planned for Mainly Mozart, which begins with two exciting concerts featuring some of the best musicians in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, in February, we have members of the Los Angeles Philharmonic combining with members of the San Francisco Symphony. And this isn't something that we do. That's not, two orchestras don't come together to form one combined orchestra. But the idea came about actually in a conversation with Cindy Phelps, the principal viola of the New York Philharmonic, who played with us in October, and talking with musicians. And so many orchestras are sidelined. So with the New York Philharmonic and the San Francisco Symphony, et cetera, not Nashville, the Met is the worst story of them all. But, they're these great musicians, some of the greatest orchestral musicians in the world are sitting at home. And so the idea was to do something that you can't hear anyone anywhere else. In San Francisco, you can't go hear the members of the San Francisco Symphony play in this sort of ensemble. So, I started out very stingy saying, well, let's put together a group of 18, okay, 20, okay, 26. Until now, we just have a full chamber orchestra because that's how we represent ourselves best and do the repertoire that we feel needs to be heard. David Chan, the concertmaster of the Met, and Scott Pingle, the principal bass of the San Francisco Symphony, kind of rose up along with me to guide this February and April series, the two festivals. helped put together the orchestra, put together programming, of course, with music director Michael Francis's input. It's very much been a team effort, and I've developed a different kind of working relationship with some artists that I've worked with for many years. So that's been a lot of fun too. But putting together an all-star orchestra at a time when most orchestral musicians aren't working is not difficult. What's really difficult is putting together two orchestras, because what happened more times than I would like to tell you is that we finished the hiring, finished the programming, finished all the planning, and then an orchestra's recording schedule would change or quarantine requirements would change, and we had to start all over. And I mean, I've run Mainly Mozart for 32 years and have never experienced anything. Certainly, none of us have experienced anything like COVID, but with artist cancellations that are completely out of the artist's control, it's mind-boggling.
So we keep our fingers crossed on all of this, I guess.
Well, at this point, it was very intentional, because it was originally my thinking had been to have San Francisco, LA together in April. But when the COVID spike became apparent, we moved the Californians into February and the East Coasters into April, hoping that things would be stabilized a bit before then. So it's very intentional that we have everybody. I call San Francisco, during COVID, since COVID started, San Francisco has suddenly become drive distance. I don't think we used to think about hopping in our cars and driving to San Francisco, but that's what everyone is doing now. So even my artist who came from Dallas in October, they drove. So we're just doing things very differently. So it's very intentional that we're having the two biggest California orchestras pairing. It's going to be something that you can't see in LA, something that you can't see in San Francisco.
And then coming in June, it is your traditional Mainly Mozart Festival with Michael Francis conducting.
It is. And, we always have what I kind of call an embarrassment of riches with our orchestra, because we have, in October, we had 9 or 11 concertmasters. We had the concertmaster of the LA Philharmonic and the Philadelphia Orchestra. And some concertmasters and principal players who are not normally available because of tours or orchestral schedules are suddenly more available, or at least differently available. Right now, musicians are having trouble telling us what their availability is, because many orchestras are only giving them 2 weeks notice about what their schedule is, as long as they're still on payroll at all. So it does make it a challenge, but there is such a wealth, and actually that's a terrible word to use, because having so many musicians not working should never be considered a wealth, but there is such a wealth of available artists for us in June that putting together an orchestra like this is always a joy, and really going to be a very exceptional gathering this June.
And are there any other concerts or special events outside of the regular Mainly Mozart festival season planned?
Well, we have a few things. Mainly Mozart does a program called Mozart in the Mind that explores the music-brain connection, and one track of that ties to autism. So we will be partnering with the Autism Society and Art of Autism for Autism's Got Talent in April, National Autism Awareness Month. Our Mainly Mozart Youth Orchestra will be performing. Exactly what that looks like, because of where we are right now, is hard to say, but definitely between now and June, our youth orchestra will be having free public performances. We will go back to the Del Mar Fairgrounds in the summer in drive-in format for free public concerts, as we did this summer. And we are planning on doing some commissions and new works. There is a kind of big project that I can't quite tell you about yet that is percolating for the fall, which would be a series of free and low-cost concerts in the downtown area.
Nancy Laturno, the longtime CEO of the Mainly Mozart Festival, congratulations on all you've accomplished, and thank you very much for joining us with an update on this year's upcoming festival presentations on Inside Art.
Thank you, Dave.
The Mainly Mozart Festival begins its 2021 season with the Festival of Orchestras, February 10th through 14th, featuring members of the LA Philharmonic and San Francisco Symphonies, followed by musicians from the National Symphony and Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, April 15th through 18th. All socially distanced performances are presented at the Del Mar Fairgrounds parking lot. For tickets and more information, you can visit mainlymozart.org. Coming up, stay with us for a preview of the Old Globe's 8th annual Powers New Voices Festival. That's next, as Inside Art continues here on San Diego's Jazz 88.3. Funding for Inside Art comes from the members of Jazz 88.3, where your support brings the joy and history of jazz and all of the arts to San Diego. To become a member, visit jazz88.org/donate.